Hi, my name is Jim Heath. I'm a senior interpreter here at Heritage Park. We're in front of the Prince House, one of the gems in Heritage Park's collection. This house was built in 1894 and moved here in 1967 for Canada's centennial. It's the home of Mr. Peter Prince, and it's an Edwardian home which has four things that we take for granted today. It has indoor plumbing, central heating, electricity, and out back there's a garage because Mr. Prince Jr. was the first man in Calgary to own a car. Up on the third floor you'll see that there's what we call an invalid's balcony. Many homes of this period had that because tuberculosis was a rampant disease at the time, and they felt the fresh air and sunshine would be beneficial. It wasn't a place where they were kept away from people. It was a place to get away for the day, just to relax and enjoy the day and try to get healthier. A lot of people ask, how did we get the house here? So if you look at it, it's a brick home and underneath is a wood structure. Now we had a lady come in a couple of years ago whose family actually moved the house here. And she informed us that the bricks were taken off for each side and put on pallets, because after 70 years of being in one location, of course, it would have faded differently. So all the bricks were taken off, put on pallets, and then the second floor was removed. Because if you think about it, the ceiling of the first floor is the floor of the second floor, and the ceiling of the second floor is the floor of the third floor. All the second floor is walls. So we have photographs that show it being held up by cribbing to the third floor. So the whole second floor was removed in just an empty space. They took the turret off the top, they took the third floor off, laid it on the ground, then they took the main floor, they brought it to Heritage Park, they rebuilt the second floor, reinstalled the third floor on the turret, and we have the house as you see it today. So why don't we take a step inside and take a look at the main floor of this house. It's amazing what you're going to see in here. You'll see that in the lobby here, in the foyer, we only have one fireplace. And we have a daybed beside here because in Mr. Prince's memoirs, he said he liked to come home at noon and relax on the daybed with a glass of brandy and a cigar before he went back to work. I'm going to hang up my hat. Some of you have been in the house before, have always seen this door open and going right through. But indeed, this is actually the front hall closet. So we're going to go into the living room now, and we often get a lot of questions. Is this the original furniture? And I always say to people, do you have the same couch you had 20 years ago? Remember, this house is over 100 years old now. So the living room was a place where they would come to entertain their guests who came here to visit. Mrs. Prince would sit in here during the daytime, probably do some needlepoint, things like that. But if you came and you were having dinner with them, we're going to go into the dining room. So behind these doors is the dining room. Now, out of all the things we have in this house, the dining room set was actually owned by the Prince family. Mr. Prince would have sat at the head of this table and enjoyed a lovely day and a lovely dinner. Behind us over here is his office. When he retired from going in every day to the Eau Claire lumber mill, he would spend his days in there up until 8 weeks before he passed away and do his business. He had a number of businesses, including a flour mill, a grocery store, a large ranch, all with Mr. Kerr, who was his partner in the Eau Claire Lumber Company. Behind us is the sideboard as well. And on the sideboard, you'll see a large cheese dish. This cheese dish was indeed owned by the Prince family as well. Some of the other things you'll see in here are pickle casters. That's these dishes here. Park is littered with pickle casters. I think they were the one thing that people never used, and they found in the back of everybody's sideboards when they were going through their grandparents' things. You'll find them in the Prince house, the Thorpe house, the ranch house. Everywhere you look, you see these wonderful little pickle casters. Take the lid off, get your pickles out, go back to dinner. And when you wanted some service, you would ring the bell. And then behind you, right here, you would open the door, and there's a pass-through to the kitchen for the butler's pantry. So the dishes would come hot out of the kitchen to you from there. So let's go into the kitchen and take a look. The kitchen is the one room that was vandalized in the year that the house was vacant, so we really don't have any idea as to how it was set up. But we do know there would be certain things that would be in here. One would be this stove. This stove has a hot water heater in it, as well as it has a full oven in it as well. And over here we have one of the very first refrigerators, and it's actually patented on the lid as a refrigerator. So you would put the ice on the top, Iceman would come every week, you'd put it in there, and on the bottom is where the food would go. And no science experiments, because it's a Lazy Susan, so you don't lose anything. Now, behind me is a small door. You may wonder what that door is. This is the servants' or children's stairwell. So let's go upstairs now via the servants' stairwell and take a look at what we can see up there. So here we are, coming out of the servants' stairwell. Below us is the foyer, and above us is the second floor. There's 4 bedrooms on this level and a bathroom. The bathroom is relatively new to the period, as I said before. Now in this house, the master bedroom here, it's set up the way it typically would have been set up for a home at the time. Now, Mr. Prince was married 4 times. He built this house as a retirement home for his first wife, Marguerite. Unfortunately, she only lived in it for 4 years before she passed away. About a year and a half after that, he married an invalid woman named Emma Wallen. Emma Wallen had come over as a spinster with her family from Europe and was working out in Prentice with them. He brought her into this home, and she lived here with tuberculosis her whole life. It's often said that she passed away in this home, and she spent a lot of time on the 3rd floor as well. Now, after she passed away, he married a woman named Rosa. Rosa lived down the street from him, about 4 doors. We always call her the casserole queen, because we figured that at that time, when someone was in mourning, you brought food to the home, and maybe that's how they met, we don't know for sure. But she came down with cancer 2 years into their marriage. And at the time, her sister had just gone through a divorce in England, and she asked if she could bring the sister over to help. So Emily Whitlock and her daughter Nora came over here. Well, after Rose passed away, who became the 4th wife? But the sister-in-law a year later, Emily. Emily outlived Mr. Prince by 14 years. She passed away in this house in 1944. The house was left to her daughter Nora, and she passed away in here in 1965, and at that time it was bought by Alberta Southern, and then it was given to the Heritage Park as a heritage piece. So let's take a look at some of the other rooms here. Over here we have a set-up toy room. Now there were never any children in this house, but we like to set the room up to show you what different types of toys were available at that time and how rooms may have been used. There's a sewing machine in here for the nanny that would have used. There's a little tea party going on here. Often I ask the kids when they come into the house to make sure that the tea party is still being well hosted. And you'll see a lot of day beds in the homes. The reason for the day beds is the beds literally at that period were unmade every day, because the maids at the time and the people at the time thought that the sweat that your body produced overnight was what caused disease and bacteria. So they would literally take all the bedding off the beds, and you'll see at that time you get the heavy development of the footboards on the bed, because they aired the beds all day. And then at the end of the day, they would make the bed. Let's go show you the bathroom. Plumbing was relatively new at the time. This is one of the first houses in Calgary that had indoor plumbing. So there was a little dressing room that would have been outside the washroom, and inside the washroom here is a lovely huge 12-foot tub. And then we have, although not original to the house, it's a period piece. Toilets were so new that they often had to be kind of delved into a little to see what you would do. So on here you'll see there's instructions that tells you to push to release the water. We have a couple of other bedrooms up here. One is set up for Miss Nora. Miss Nora was known to be a bit of a bon vivant around town. So you'll see our lovely depiction of Miss Nora in the corner over here with very bright red lipstick. Sometimes you'll find a flask on the table as well, because she did like to have a wee lip. So Miss Nora never married. She lived in the home from 1944 till 1965 on her own with a companion. She had rented out one of the rooms to another lady that she knew. They both worked at the lumber mill company until Nora retired. But it was said Nora often spent her time in the window downstairs yelling at the kids to get out of my yard. So this room is dedicated to her. And in here, the reason this cupboard is so short is below it is the servants' stairwell. So that ends our little tour of upstairs there. I hope you enjoyed that. And on the 3rd floor, we'll show you the stairwell before we leave. So this is the stairwell to the 3rd floor. We don't have it open to the public because if you can look up the stairs, you'll see that it's very narrow and very steep. And although if you lived here, it would be fine, it doesn't currently meet any Canadian safety standards as to occupancy or egress or digress from the stairs. So upstairs in the front, where you saw the invalid's balcony, is a lovely sitting room. Lovely bright sitting room that somebody like Miss Emma, the second wife with tuberculosis, could have gone and rested for the day. There's a hustle bustle about the house. He would be here working. There would be 2 housemaids in the home keeping care of it. There might be some people in the yard. So to be quiet, you would go upstairs and relax. Not a place to be kept away, but just a place to get away. So thanks for visiting with us here at Heritage Park in the Prince House today. We hope to see you here very shortly.